Hello. The last time we were together, I talked a great deal about pronunciation, the importance of good pronunciation, and really what constitutes good, authentic pronunciation in Spanish. As far as what's important about it, you want to show respect for the person to whom you're speaking and for their culture and for their language. The fact that you make an effort to try to sound as authentic as possible demonstrates that you take them seriously, their culture seriously, their language seriously. Those things all matter greatly. At the same time, I mentioned that, and this is true, is that maybe it's unfortunate, but it's a reality, is that not just content, but form matters as well in communication. So you may have something great to say, but if you say it with an atrocious accent, people will likely take you a little less seriously than they would if you sound as authentic in speaking Spanish as you possibly can. So in any case, and last of all, you simply don't want to be ridiculous. You don't want people to laugh at you, whether it's behind your back or to your face, if your accent is too inauthentic. And what is an inauthentic accent? Well, it's when we allow the sounds of the English language, and I'm speaking in large measure to people in North America, so American English pronunciation to slip into our pronunciation of Spanish. We're applying the phonics system of English to the Spanish language, and that ends out sounding atrocious. So, for example, let's take a look at, well, actually, before we get to that reading, let me make a couple more comments, and then we'll take a look at a reading selection. In order to sound authentic, I said to you that the biggest, there's some challenges with, in particular, two to three consonant sounds. The first is the sound D, which is not pronounced D, the letter D. It's pronounced with the tip of your tongue appearing between your teeth, just appearing briefly, and just seeing the tip of the tongue between the teeth to soften the sound of the D. You don't want to say dar, or let me find a word in this reading we're about to do here, or cuida, well, you don't know that word yet. Here's a good one. Universidad. You want to say universidad. The tip of your tongue appears between your teeth, and instead of a D sound, you create almost a TH, but not that exaggerated. If you were to stick your tongue way out, like we did in English for the word with, it would be too much. That'd be universidad. And that's going overboard. But rather, universidad, just the tip of your tongue appears between your teeth to soften the sound of the D. Secondly, I said two or three sounds, really. It's because the letter R is the issue, which is one consonant, but there are times when it appears, when there appear two consecutive letters R, and that's called the R, and that's handled in a different fashion than a single R. So I guess you could call those two different consonant sounds. The first of them, the letter R by itself, rather than being pronounced in the throat. Most sounds in Spanish are pronounced in the front of your mouth, not down in your throat. There are a few, like G and K and which we'll talk about later, the letter J. But for the most part, you're going to speak the language really in the front of your mouth, and this applies to the letter R. It's not R in the throat like as we pronounce the R in English, but it's rather the tip of your tongue hits the roof of your mouth right behind your top row of teeth to make the sound R, 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 like in caro or pero. And now those two sounds right there, or those two words, caro and pero, have a single R. Okay, it almost sounds like a D, but when you hear caro and pero, but it's not quite. Rather than your teeth coming together, your teeth are slightly separated, and your tongue hits the roof of your mouth. Car, r, r. Okay. However, those two words also, if you could take that R and double the R in those words, and both of them would be different words, and they would be carro and perro. Okay, carro. Caro, which you already heard, is the word expensive. Carro, of course, is the word car, which you've heard many times. And then pero, which you've heard a few times, is the word however or but. And then perro is the word dog. Okay, so now how am I making that rolling R sound, the double R? Well, the tip of my tongue is hitting the roof of my mouth in the same location, but it's fluttering against the roof of my mouth. And so you multiple times. Perro. Now, how many times? I don't know. But if you think about when you were a little boy, maybe a little girl, and you were playing with trucks or cars on the ground, you made the sound. you're coming pretty close to actually pronouncing the double letter R there. So perro and carro. The tip of your tongue flutters against the roof of your mouth, right behind the top row of teeth. And it's not just when you have a double R, I should mention. If the R, a single R, is in the initial position in a word, that is to say it's the first letter, for example, radio, you again roll the R, you flutter the tip of your tongue against the roof of your mouth right behind your teeth, your top row of teeth. When you have a single R, but it's the first letter in the word, like Roberto, or what other R's do you know? I said radio, or Renate. One of my former soccer players was named Renate. So in any case, those are the challenging sounds as far as consonants are concerned. But the biggest issue in trying to sound as authentic as you can as you speak Spanish, or at least as inoffensive as you can, the big issue is how you handle the vowel sounds, especially the o, u. I'd say those three of the five are probably the most difficult for English-speaking people to handle. The key is you want to maintain the purity of the vowel sound by not in any way allowing your face, anything in your face, to move. Your jaw, your lips, your teeth, your tongue, the shape of your mouth. Everything. Once you start making the vowel sound, you want it to endure throughout the entire duration of the pronunciation of that vowel sound. You want it to, it's like you're setting the jaw on concrete and nothing moves. See, nothing moves in my face whatsoever. Okay? Like in, let me find it, es. The only thing that moved right there was when I had to go to the letter S, and I said S, of course. But the first letter in the sound es is e. See, nothing moves. All right. And the second issue, I said the entire duration of the vowel. You don't want anything to move, the vowel sound. Well, the entire duration is abbreviated. It's shortened. You cut it short when you're speaking Spanish. In English, we elongate the sounds of the vowels. In Spanish, you want to keep them brief. Okay, and that'll help you not to change the shape of your mouth as you pronounce that vowel sound. So o, u. Okay, that applies also to a, but generally speaking, a will not cause you difficulty, and also e. I suppose you could change the shape of your mouth and say something like we do in English when we say me, e, where I'm changing the shape of my mouth. It should be e. Nothing moves. Okay, so cut the vowel sound short. Let nothing change as you start pronouncing the vowel sound, and no one will get hurt. And remember that those vowel sounds are not going to change regardless of if they're in the first position, the last position in the word, the middle of the word, before a vowel, after a consonant, before a certain consonant. No, it's always, the sound is always is always is always It never becomes a. Okay, you're going to want to pronounce, for example, the word es un hombre. Okay, when you're going to want to say es. It's much easier. It takes less muscular tension, but you want to avoid that at all costs. So let's go to the reading now to which I referred, and I'm going to have you read. First, I'll read a line of text to you, and then I take it back. I'll let you read first, and then I'll ask you, did you sound like this? And then I'll remind you the way in which you needed to sound as you go through each of these different words. Okay, here we go. Here you see a summary of a portion of the beginning of the Richardson story about which you've read in Unit 2. And let's hear you read this first sentence right here from La to Americana. Go. I'm listening. Okay, I'm really not listening, as you know. And so I have to ask you a question. That question is, did you sound like this? La familia Richardson es una familia Americana. Now, maybe you can't either honestly respond or recognize quite what you sounded like, but maybe somebody sitting with you, your parent or a teacher in the same room could tell you, yep, that's exactly what you sounded like. And hopefully that's not the case. You can ask them. Again, you don't want to sound like this. La familia Richardson es una familia Americana. Now, what are the problems with what I just said? Many. La familia. First of all, let's take Richardson. Okay, remember an R in initial position in a word, it's going to be rolled. Richardson. Okay. Secondly, I said re. Okay, and this first letter, or the second letter, I should say, in the word Richardson is e. Okay, so Richardson. Okay, and this is, watch my mouth. Oh, it's not oh like in English, like I mow the lawn. It's oh, cut it short and let nothing move. Richardson. Now you're thinking, their names are Richardson. You're making them. You're changing their family's name. Well, that's just a reality. When I lived in France for many years, I wasn't Steve Nesbitt. I was Steve Nesbitt, and which was sometimes a little awkward. And in any case, you just got to get used to the fact that people are going to pronounce your name differently. I was not Steve in France. I was Steve. Okay, and people in the language, the country where you live, or the people who you're speaking, are going to adapt your name, unless they're English-speaking people, to their phonics system. And so you've got to get used to that. And so Richardson is what you would expect to pronounce if you're speaking about a family in Spanish. I didn't say, for example, to my friends, Madame, well, of course you're not French speakers, but just listen to it anyway. Madame Nesbitt bon, est une femme superbe. Okay, I didn't suddenly change my last name to sound the way it does in the English language in the middle of the sentence and the rest of the sentence sounding French. No, you adapt it, and so that's why I adapted Richardson. Now, if you said S, which is very common, it's much easier to pronounce before a consonant sound in English than it is to pronounce e. But if you did, you're wrong. It's es. La familia Richardson es una familia now. Did you say Americana because you say American in English? If you did, again, that's an issue you got to deal with. Is that this letter right here is always no matter what position it appears in a word. So Americana, ame. Cut it short and let nothing move. I'll get past the and I will say Americana. And now, I've been talking for the most part about vowels here. Here we have a single R, right? So it's not, get it out of your throat, it's not Americana, it's Amer. Get the tip of your tongue to hit the roof of your mouth right behind your teeth. Americana. If you're having trouble doing that, say it with a D. Americana. Say it like a D. Americana. And you're closer than if you're saying Americana. All right? But in any case, try and master the R correctly by hitting the tip of your tongue against the roof of your mouth. Americana. Okay, let's have you read the next sentence. Starting, I'm going to skip a sentence because you got some of the same words there. No, it's okay. Read that same sentence, this next sentence, right here from La to Francia. Go ahead. Okay, hopefully you didn't sound like La familia vive en Francia. Okay, it's La familia vive en Francia. Now, what do you want to be looking out for? La familia is not particularly difficult to pronounce, but vive is a challenge for two reasons, really. The letter V, I didn't speak about that as one of the great challenges, but it's not a V. In English, we say V with our teeth. How's it go? The lower row of teeth against the upper lip. In Spanish, that's not the case. Just bring the lips together very briefly. Let them touch very briefly. It's almost like the letter B. Okay, V. And then the last letter, of course, in that word right there, the word vive, right here, the letter E. Again, be very conscious of cutting it short and let nothing move once you start pronouncing it. It's not A, like the month of May, but it's vive, See, nothing's moving. And I'm cutting it short. Vive. So twice your lips are going to just touch quickly in the word vive. Vive. Okay, not vive. All right. Let's read on a bit more. Let's skip ahead to this sentence right here. The word from this sentence is, I'll say it this time first, es profesor de inglés. Es profesor de inglés. Okay? Go ahead, you try and say it. All right, that's a quick one. Hopefully you didn't say es profesor de inglés. Okay? What would be wrong with those? First of all, we have the letter E appearing 4 times in the sentence. We've got E, e, e. Notice that each time I said it in exactly the same way. E will never change its value. None of the vowels will ever change their value. Therefore, by the way, and this is moving way ahead, moving 3 units ahead, it'll be very easy for you to learn if you learn to pronounce correctly, it will be very easy for you to be able to write Spanish, to spell Spanish, because exactly what you hear is exactly what you write, unlike in English, okay? So in any case, you want E all the way through. Es profesor de inglés, okay? Es profesor de inglés. What else is a challenge in here? Of course, the D, soften it. You don't want to say de, it's de, es profesor de inglés, okay? So, now we have the letter R twice, okay? And you pronounce every letter in Spanish except for a U after a Q, and I think a U after a G as well, yeah, in certain cases. But generally speaking, pronounce unlike French. French is atrocious as far as silent letters are concerned. Well, in Spanish, you pronounce every letter. So the R at the end of the word, of course, is going to be pronounced. And it's going to be pronounced in the exact same way as it was at the beginning of the word, right here. And it's going to be profesor. And notice I said pro, I didn't say pro. You're going to want to adapt Spanish words which are cognates. That means words that look like English and have the same general meaning. You're going to want to adapt them to the English phonics system because it looks like English. It's not English. And don't change the sound system that you're using. It's o, pro, profesor. O is always o. It's never o. Okay? So professor, no. It's profesor. O, profesor. Profesor. Okay. Let's try 2 or 3 more sentences and I'll stop harassing you. This is a good one right here. Try this sentence right from trabaja to universidad. Hit it. Okay, that sounded better. Well, it didn't really. I couldn't hear you at all. But I'm sure it did sound better. It should be. It should not be trabaja or trabaja en una universidad. That's what it should not be. It should be trabaja en una universidad. Trabaja en una universidad. Okay? Trabaja. First of all, we're going to notice in the word. Of course, you got in this first word. You've got the letter R. Tra. Not ter. Get it out of your throat. It's in the front of your mouth. Traba. Now the letter J, I haven't spoken about. I mentioned it earlier. I said I would be talking about it. The letter J is pronounced in your throat, and it sounds like you sound like an angry swan. Okay, have you ever seen a swan when it's mad and it opens up its beak and hisses at you? That's what the letter J sounds like in Spanish. It's trabaja. Okay, trabaja en now. Right here, it very, very commonly English-speaking people want to say before a consonant sound, and so they want to say n, just like with s in the first sentence we read. It's is always a. It never changes its value no matter what's after it, no matter where it is in the word. It's n. If you say n, that's one of the real tip-offs to a Spanish-speaking person that you're not a native speaker, and even if they can tell you're not a native speaker, worse than that you're not even trying. You're not even trying to sound like them as you should. So it's trabaja en una. Now una, this letter U, I should say the letter. Well, it is called U in Spanish, but as you're learning the alphabet, aren't you? But the letter U in English is going to be pronounced. It couldn't be pronounced oo. Or at least that sound can be said ooh, like in the word moon. That's not a letter U in English, but it's that sound ooh. Notice I'm changing the shape of my mouth. In Spanish, it's ooh. Nothing moves. So una, not una, but una. Okay. Trabaja en una. Now, and we have the letter U again, and here's the e, and then here are the 2 soft D's, the and the. And so, universidad, not the making this into a sound or an sound, and making that into an R in the throat. No. I'm making this into a d, universidad. No, it's Universidad. Repitan. Universidad. Get that tongue between your teeth. Universidad. Okay, universidad, así es. Okay, one more sentence. Let's take this sentence right. It's a long one here. From ella to niños. From ella to niños. Andre, pronuncia. Go ahead, read it. Okay, hopefully you're being conscious now of the sounds that you're making. Why is it important to pronounce, why is it so important to pronounce these correctly at this point? It's because you're forming habits right now, which are going to endure. And in order to pronounce Spanish correctly, you're going to have to start developing certain muscles in your face that you don't necessarily use in English. Okay, and so, for example, the eh. Usually, our muscles are much more relaxed when we say the sound a, the month of May. Okay, but in Spanish, you tighten up these muscles and eh. You tighten them in order to keep anything from moving in your face as you pronounce the sound eh. Okay, and therefore you're developing these muscles right now as you're speaking Spanish. You need to continue doing it to have the ability to speak authentically in the future. Okay, so this is ella se que. I'm going to emphasize the eh in the first 4 words. Okay, ella se queda en. Okay. Notice that in each of those cases, the e never changes its value. If you're saying ella se queda en, okay, you get to some point where it's easier before a vowel or consonant to pronounce e as eh. Don't give in to that temptation. Okay, you always maintain the purity, the identity of that the vowel sound in Spanish. So ella se queda en. And by the way, sometimes when you hear in the Ulat, you probably hear me say ella. It sounds like a zh sound in there. It depends on the country. I was initially taught, if I remember correctly, back 50 years or 45 to 50 years by a Venezuelan woman. And I believe she was from Venezuela, and she would say ella, and so ella, even a more pronounced fashion, and so that kind of slipped into my pronunciation. But if you simply say ella, without the zh sound, that's fine. So I'm sure I pronounce ella in both fashions within the Ulat, and that's probably a weakness on my part. But I just want to make you aware that if you ever hear ella, it's the same as ella. Okay, depends on the part of the Spanish-speaking world where the language is being spoken. Ella se queda en. Okay, essentially all we're emphasizing there is the e sound. Now let's move up to the last part of the sentence. In any case. E, not E. I said I didn't mention that as one of the vowel sounds that will cause you difficulty, but maybe I was mistaken. Really, it can be a challenge. You can easily slip into the lazy way of pronouncing, which is really your own English phonics system, and say E, and move and change the shape of your mouth. Tighten up those muscles. E, and cut short the vowel sound. Y cuida. Now, cuida. When you have two vowels together, when two vowels, how's that go in English? When two vowels go walking, the first one doesn't. I don't know, but that doesn't apply in Spanish. Each vowel sound has it gets its value. You don't cause one vowel sound to take precedence over the one that immediately follows it. You pronounce each one, okay? And so there's an exercise you've probably heard in these lessons where I pronounce each one real slowly. U, E. And then I keep saying faster and faster. U, E. U, E. U, E, we. That's what the final sound you come to is what in this word right here, the UI should sound like. So make sure you're pronouncing each vowel sound, and over time you will learn when the two vowel sounds are together what they sound like as you slide from one into the next. Cuida. It's we. Okay. So when you see two vowel sounds next to each other, don't fall into the temptation to maybe only pronounce one of them or try and come up with some kind of a like in the word read, R-E-A-D in English. E-A, for when two vowels go walking, I guess they say read, okay? Or to come up with some kind of a, like E-I-G-H-T, the number 8, okay? How in the world from E-I do we come up with A, the sound A in English? I have no idea. But in Spanish, fortunately, you don't have that difficulty. You pronounce each vowel sound, you maintain its usual identity, and you just simply slide from one to the other as you pronounce them rapidly. Okay, cuida, cuida. Again, here's an important word. It's a word you see all the time right there. And you're going to want to say, oh, los niños. Okay? Don't let anything move. Once you get to the O sound, say, oh, and cut it short and let nothing move. Los niños. Los niños. You probably have seen this. You've learned this by now, but of course the end with the tilde over it, that little squiggly line, is a nia sound, like nia, 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 nia. Okay? Niños. A los niños. And it's niños. It's not niños. And it's not O. It's O. Niños. Okay, I think I've harassed and berated you enough as far as the pronunciation of Spanish is concerned. Let's move on to another activity. The last time we were together, I had you try to form questions about this Richardson story, and I think it was probably a little, it was poorly planned on my part. It was asking too much, really. So here's a little bit more. I was giving you answers, and I wanted you to form the question and we get the answer. It's a pretty challenging activity. This is a little more feasible, I guess. We're going to focus on the interrogative words, and let's review them quickly, what they are. What's this? Remember in the Ulat, this picture? Or the still picture of this? Yeah, quién. And then, what's this? Yeah, it's supposed to be ¿Cómo se puede hacer eso? Me parece imposible. Okay? And then, ¿qué? Sí, ¿qué es esta cosa? ¿Qué? Okay, ¿qué es esto? Sí, ¿dónde? And sometimes we say, ¿a dónde? ¿Verdad? When there's movement towards a destination, we say ¿a dónde? Which has the idea of to where, not just where. Okay? ¿A dónde? Or ¿dónde? More commonly it's going to be ¿dónde? And this, what's this? Picture this as being a wristwatch, which practically doesn't exist anymore. Okay? I probably should be using a cell phone, like opening it up and like this, but in any case, what's that? Yeah, that's cuando. Cuando. Or if you want a specific time, you would say ¿a qué hora? ¿A qué hora? ¿Cuándo o a qué hora? ¿A qué hora comienza la escuela? O ¿cuándo comienza la escuela? ¿A qué hora would ask for ¿cuándo comienza la escuela? Would probably get the answer of bueno, cuando todo el mundo ha llegado, when everybody's arrived. Whereas ¿a qué hora comienza la escuela? Would more likely get the answer at 8 o'clock. Okay, a specific time. So that's that one right there. When trying to remember that's a wristwatch. And then last of all, sí. It's a fine mess you've gotten us into this time, Ollie. Yes, ¿por qué? ¿Por qué? No comprendo. ¿Por qué? And then we had two. Sí. What's this one? Yeah, mucho o poco. That's the what I'm looking for. That's the information I'm looking for. What's the word? Yeah, it's cuánto. Now, if I'm trying to find out how, how much, a lot or a little, I'm trying to find out rather the quantity, the specific number, what am I going to ask? What's that gesture in the Ulat or the picture? Yeah, it's cuantos or cuantas. It's the same word, but in the plural, cuantos or cuantas. And cuanto, cuanta, cuantos, cuantas. The reason we have two different ones, cuanto and cuanta, is that if it's a masculine word, like cuanto dinero, okay, we're going to say cuanto. If the word that follows cuanto is a feminine word, we won't say cuanto, we'll say cuanta. Like cuanta suerte, cuanta que... sí, claro, lo más obvio. Cuánta tarea. How much homework is Mr. Nesbitt can give us? Cuánta tarea. Okay, how much? And this is cuantos is going to be followed by a plural noun. I'm trying to find in the masculine, like cuantos niños, how many children? Or cuantas mujeres, how many women, for example. Okay. And then last one, there's another one. I know there's another one in there. Sí. ¿Esto o esto? ¿Qué prefieres? ¿Esto o esto? What is that picture? You see a 1 and a 2 in the still image in the Ulat, which conveys this idea. It's cuál. Which one? This one or that one? Cuál. In the plural form, when you have a plural noun after, it's cuáles. Okay? ¿Cuál muchacho? ¿Cuál de los muchachos es tu hermano? ¿O cuáles muchachos son tus hermanos? Okay. Bueno, basta. Ahorita, so now let's take a look. We've reviewed the interrogatives, and remember, you're going to place in the interrogative initial position, and then you're going to take the subject and the verb and invert them. okay, to form the question. So, I'll tell you now what I want you to ask me specifically. I'll tell you in English for once. Why does Carol go to the supermarket? Why does she go to the store? Why does she go to the supermarket? Ask me that question. Form that question. You're going to use this, as you can see. Okay. ¿Por qué Carol va? ¿Por qué va Carol al supermercado? Okay. Now, the subject, which is in this case Carol, is very versatile in Spanish. It can be placed really in a variety of places, and it won't change the meaning of the sentence. Cuando, you could put it way at the end, for example. ¿Por qué va Carol al supermercado? ¿Por qué va al supermercado Carol? It communicates the same thing. So the key is get the subject after the verb. If it's immediately after, whether it's farther down the line, the meaning will not change. Okay, but generally speaking, I'm going to place the subject right after the verb. Okay, let's try these sentences now, talking about when they're inside the supermarket. We got the little boy, Miguel. It is Miguel. Yeah, it's Miguel. Playing on the horse. He doesn't want to leave. Okay, and poor Carol, look at her. She's worn out. She's carrying the baby. She's carrying the groceries. She's got a nice French baguette in her arms there. Okay, so here we're going to say, why is Carol tired? Duh. But what's the question? How would you form that question? Why is Carol tired? Think first, how would you say Carol is tired? Carol, yeah, está cansada. Okay, now we haven't really, we'll get to this in Unit 3. You haven't talked about this yet, but adjectives will change. The word cansado is an adjective. It describes Carol. It's going to change based upon whether it's describing a masculine or a feminine word, a singular or a plural word. Okay, and so we say cansada because referring to a woman, the O changes to A. Usually you hear cansado, because I'm usually talking about myself. And I would say, yo estoy cansado. But if I'm talking about Carol, the O changes to A to show that it's describing a woman, or it could be a feminine thing. For example, the house is white. Instead of saying la casa es blanco, I say la casa es blanca. The O changes to A when it's describing something which is feminine, la casa. Okay, but in any case, that's for Unit 3. I just want to mention this in advance. So if I say cansada here, it's because we're describing Carol, not Mr. Nesbitt. Okay, so ¿por qué está Carol cansada? O ¿por qué está cansada Carol? Okay, muy bien. Después, try this one. Here we've got ¿qué? What I want you to say is, what does Carol want to do? What does she want to do? Okay, now this is a point where I should mention the position of the word Carol. When you have two verbs side by side, you're going to start with the interrogative, ¿qué? And you've got Carol quiere. So you know that Carol wants to do something. It'll be Carol quiere hacer, right? Okay, Carol quiere hacer cierta cosa. Typically, you might think it's Carol and quiere. They're going to invert. You've got two verbs side by side. Put the Carol after both of them, not just after the first. So, ¿qué quiere hacer Carol? ¿Qué quiere hacer Carol? ¿Qué quiere hacer Carol? Después. Now we're talking about their trip to lunch. Carol's too tired to prepare lunch, and so she takes Miguel to McDonald's. And this is the concept here I want you to express is where does Michael where does Michael want to eat lunch? Say that. Where does Michael want to eat lunch? Well, don't say that. I mean, say it in Spanish. Okay, so the first you start with the interrogative, which is ¿dónde? And then you get the statement Miguel quiere comer. Invert, but remember, put the Miguel after both verbs. Okay. ¿Dónde quiere comer Miguel el almuerzo? Or you can put Miguel at the end of the sentence. ¿Dónde quiere comer el almuerzo Miguel? The position doesn't matter. Just make sure you put the Miguel after both verbs. Let's move on to 24 here. How many hamburgers does Michael eat? If I remember correctly, he eats 2 because he likes hamburgers. Carol only eats 1. She doesn't like him, but she took her son there because she wants a break. Can you understand that? Probably some of you can. At least some of the mothers watching can. So how many hamburgers does Michael eat? How would you express that idea? Okay, so you start with the interrogative. Cuánto or cuánta or cuántos or cuántas, that'll depend on what comes after it, okay, the form that it takes exactly. And then the word is hamburguesas. Do you think you will say cuánto hamburguesas? Do you think you will say cuánta hamburguesas? Do you think it will be cuántos hamburguesas? Or do you think it will be cuántas hamburguesas? What sounds better? Yeah, the last one. The sound as at the end of both words, they line up. And so cuántas hamburguesas is very natural to say. Now, the specific grammatical reason is that it's la hamburguesa. It's a feminine word, a feminine noun. And we're talking about more than one, hamburguesa, and therefore cuánto must be in the feminine and plural form also to match it. So cuántas hamburguesas. Cuántas hamburguesas, I'll take the subject and the verb and simply, there's only one verb here, so just reverse them. Cuántas hamburguesas come Miguel? ¿Cuántas hamburguesas come Miguel? Okay. Now, if we'd ever been saying the name Miguel, we know about whom we're talking, I wouldn't have to say his name, would I? I could just drop it and not even say he. In other words, él. I could simply say, ¿cuántas hamburguesas come? And it'll be understood that I'm talking about Miguel. Nonetheless, to get the idea of inversion, I went ahead and said it here. Okay, here let's do this one more sentence here. How much does Carol eat? How much? You want to know how much? A lot or a little? Okay, how much does Carol eat? Okay, ¿cuánto? Now take Carol, the subject and verb, and ¿cuánto come Carol? ¿Come mucho o poco? ¿Cuánto come Carol? No come mucho porque a ella no le gustan las hamburguesas. Okay, I said we're done. Let's do a couple more because I want to look for some of the interrogatives you haven't used yet. Here we go. This is a good one here. This one you haven't used a great deal. This one you haven't used at all. Here we're going to say, which child has homework? These are kids, huh? So which child has homework? Start with the interrogative. That's right. ¿Cuál? Now, ¿cuál will become cuáles if I'm speaking about in the plural, but I'm not. I'm talking about one single child of these two. So, ¿cuál niño tiene tarea? ¿Cuál niño tiene tarea? Or ¿cuál de los niños tiene tarea? I can say which child or which of the children have homework. So it could be either ¿cuál niño tiene tarea? Or ¿cuáles de los niños tiene tarea? Try number 34 here. I want to say, how much homework does Kathy have? How would you say that? Okay, again, you get the idea. This is cuánto, or talking about a lot or a little. Cuánto, but it's followed by the word tarea, and you know that tarea is la tarea. It's a feminine word. So you don't want to say cuánto tarea. You can hear those two don't line up, those vowels at the end of each of these words. And so it's cuánta tarea, ¿verdad? Cuánta tarea, now invert subject and verb. Yeah, cuánta tarea tiene Katrina? Cuánta tarea tiene Katrina? By the way, as you've been saying these sentences, have you been saying cuánta tarea tiene Katrina, or have you been thinking about pronunciation as you've been speaking? I hope you're giving some thought to pronunciation. You're tightening up the muscles in your face when you're making the vowel sounds and not letting anything move, and you're shortening the vowel sounds, the duration of the vowel sound. Okay, it's tiene, not tiene. It's tiene. Okay, and when I say you see, well, you're not seeing it here, but you've seen it when you've done the reading. Tiene is spelled T-I-E-N-E. When you see these two vowel sounds, I-E, next to each other, do you tend to want to say tiny? Okay? No. Remember, each vowel sound gets its own value and is pronounced. It's E-E, 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 E-E. So I followed by E is ye. That's the sound it makes in Spanish. Tiene. Okay, just a little A little parenthesis there regarding pronunciation as we're doing this activity. Okay, that's probably enough of the work with the interrogatives and forming a question. To finish off, let's just have some conversation. I'll ask you questions about the story. Hopefully you did read through the whole Richardson story. See if you can respond. And we're not going to talk about this. I'm going to go back to, really, where we actually been. The section we've been talking about this is when Carol and Carol and Miguel and Katrina están en el supermercado. No, Katrina no está. Y el bebé están en el supermercado. Pues, por favor, I could have you read this, but to save a little bit of time, I'll read it to you. ¿Cómo van mamá y Miguel al supermercado? ¿Cómo? ¿Cómo van al supermercado? ¿Toman el tren? ¿Toman un autobús? ¿Toman el carro? ¿Cómo van al supermercado? Sí, andan, caminan al supermercado. What's the sound al? Remember, this is moving toward a destination, and it's el supermercado, and el form the single word al. Caminan al supermercado. Papá tiene el carro, pues ellos no pueden tomar el carro, tienen que caminar. Pues caminan al supermercado. Después, ¿qué compra mamá? ¿Qué compra? ¿Compra vestidos? Ustedes no saben lo que son. ¿Compra una computadora, por ejemplo, en el supermercado? ¿Qué es lo que compra mamá? Díganme, escucha. Sí, por supuesto. Mamá compra comida. Mamá compra comida para la familia. Después, ¿qué quiere hacer Miguel? Notice I put Miguel after both verbs. I didn't say ¿qué quiere Miguel hacer? Es ¿qué quiere hacer Miguel? Claro, como siempre, Miguel quiere jugar. Miguel quiere montar a caballo en el supermercado. Entonces, Miguel quiere jugar. ¿Qué quiere hacer mamá? Tienen objetivos distintos. ¿Qué quiere hacer mamá? Sí, Carol quiere volver a casa, quiere regresar a casa. No quiere quedarse en el supermercado y mirar a Miguel jugando sobre el caballo. Después, ¿cómo está mamá? ¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo está? ¿Está bien? ¿Está mal? ¿Cómo se siente? Sí, mamá está cansada. Mamá está cansada. Did you say mamá está cansada? I hope you didn't. It's not esta, it's e. Work on it. Work on your pronunciation in any context. In this context, as well as when we're talking about pronunciation. Carol está cansada. Después, ¿está Miguel feliz? Miren, ¿está Miguel feliz? No, ahora Miguel no está feliz. ¿Por qué? Porque llora. Llorar es... Eso es llorar. ¿Por qué llora Miguel? ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué llora Miguel? Sí, Miguel llora porque no quiere caminar a casa. No quiere caminar, está cansado. No sé lo que quiere hacer, pero quiere tomar un taxi quizá. Did you notice when I said por qué as the question and the answer, I also used por qué? How's that possible? Why did he do that? It's because por qué in the first context was the interrogative why. When you're answering a why question, typically you answer with the word because, which is the same word in Spanish, spelled slightly differently, but it nonetheless has the same sound. And so it's por qué. Miguel llora porque no quiere caminar a casa. Okay, está cansado. Bueno, después, ahora están de vuelta en el apartamento. Mamá está limpiando la casa. Pues, yo contesté a la pregunta. ¿Qué hace mamá en casa? ¿Qué hace en casa mamá? See, I could put the mamá at the end of the sentence or right after the verb. There's flexibility in Spanish with inversion, the position of the subject. ¿Qué hace mamá en casa? ¿Mire la tele? No. Oh, miren la foto, mamá trabaja, ¿verdad? Mamá trabaja, mamá limpia el apartamento o la casa, creo que es una casa. Después, ¿ayuda Miguel a mamá? ¿Sí? ¿Ayuda mamá? ¿Ayuda Miguel? Y la próxima pregunta, ¿qué hace Miguel? Si no ayuda, ¿qué hace? Sí, Miguel no ayuda a mamá. Miguel mira la tele, ¿verdad? Después, aquí estamos hablando acerca del restaurante McDonald's. ¿Y a dónde van mamá y Miguel para el almuerzo? ¿A dónde van? Notice I'm saying a dónde here because I'm talking about moving toward a destination. ¿A dónde? And now we've taken mamá y Miguel with the verb. We've inverted them, so van is first. ¿A dónde van Miguel y mamá? I guess this is the verb over here. ¿A dónde van Miguel y mamá? Sí, van. Now you could say Miguel y mamá van a McDonald's or restaurante McDonald's. But you don't really need to repeat Miguel y mamá. I use them in my question. You know about whom we're speaking. Just say the verb itself. Just say van. Van al restaurante McDonald's. Okay? Van. Because we know about whom we're speaking. And in Spanish, you don't have to say the subject if your hearer knows about whom you're speaking. ¿A Miguel le gustan las hamburguesas? ¿Sí? ¿A Miguel le gustan las hamburguesas? Sí, le gustan mucho las hamburguesas. Él come dos, ¿verdad? Y para un muchacho muy pequeño eso es mucho, ¿verdad? ¿A mamá le gustan las hamburguesas? ¿Sí? No, no le gusta. A mamá no le gustan las hamburguesas. Es cierto. Ella come una sola, ¿verdad? Después, ¿qué hace Miguel en el restaurante? ¿Qué hace? Sí, Miguel juega, él come sus dos hamburguesas muy rápidamente y después él se va y él juega en otra parte del restaurante. ¿En qué piensa mamá? Eso es un poco triste, pero ¿en qué piensa mamá? Sí, mamá piensa en trabajar. Bueno, el hecho de trabajar no es mala cosa, pero su motivación es triste. Es que ella no quiere quedarse en casa con los niños. Es la respuesta a esta pregunta. ¿Por qué? ¿Qué quiere hacer? Quiere trabajar en un hospital como enfermera. Entonces ella está estudiando la medicina. ¿Pero por qué? Bueno, es porque los niños no son muy buenos. No son muy, ¿cómo decir? Muy disciplinados, no son correctos. Ellos no escuchan a mamá, ellos hacen lo que quieren en casa. Y papá no ayuda tampoco, ¿verdad? John no ayuda a su esposa y no aprecia, no le dice gracias ni nada. Y no comunica con su esposa tampoco. I'm getting carried away, I'm sorry, but I'm kind of upset with John and the kids. Miren esta foto. Miren esta foto aquí. ¿Está Miguel feliz? ¿Está feliz, Miguel? No, Miguel no está feliz. Miguel está... Now, would I say enojada? Would I say enojado? Which would I say? Enojado, enojada. Based on what little I've told you about adjectives. Yeah, be enojado. If I were describing a female, a girl or a woman, it would be... it could be also a feminine... animal, for example. Doesn't really make any difference. The word would be in the feminine form, and so that would be enojada. However, I'm describing a male here, and so, or a masculine noun, and so enojado. Entonces, Miguel está enojado. ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué está enojado? Sí, Miguel no quiere tomar una siesta. Él no quiere dormir, ¿verdad? No, eso, a mi edad, eso no lo puedo comprender, pero no quiere dormir. Pues, ¿por qué no quiere tomar una siesta? ¿Por qué? Sí, Miguel quiere ver la tele, él quiere jugar, no sé. Yo creo que es porque quiere ver la tele. ¿Duerme o no duerme? Finalmente, ¿duerme o no duerme? Miren las fotos. Sí, Miguel duerme, es cierto. Él duerme por fin. ¿Y mamá? ¿Qué hace mamá? ¿Duerme? ¿Toma una siesta? No, mamá no toma una siesta. Mamá estudia, ¿verdad? Estudia medicina. Ella saca notas o escribe notas, lee, ¿verdad? Escribe, piensa, estudia y aprende cosas. Well, my voice is starting to give out, so we need to go any farther in any case. You had a chance to practice some some conversation. So we worked on pronunciation. We dealt with the forming of questions using interrogatives, and finally a little bit of conversation at the end. Next time we see each other, or whether it's the next time or maybe 2 times from now, we're starting to move into in Unit 2 the topic of one's daily routine, which is the primary theme for Unit 2. How to express one's daily routine. To do that, you need to learn first the verbs, some of the verbs, in addition to the 60 you already learned in Unit 1, some of the verbs that deal with things you do on a regular basis, like taking a bath, taking a shower, brushing your teeth, shaving, probably not to maybe shave yet, but going to bed, getting dressed, getting undressed, that kind of stuff. Okay, so you'll be learning some of those verbs, but you also need to learn telling time in order to indicate at what time you do each of these activities as we go through the sequence of your daily activities. So that's what we're moving toward in the next couple lessons, next few lessons really, next couple of sessions of this online class. So make sure you check the online list of the different videos. Click on, I think it's classes at the Ulat website, or maybe it's online classes at the Ulat website, and there you'll see which lessons you need to study for the next time, before the next time we get together. Okay, adiós, nos vemos la próxima vez. Chao.